This is Talking Hardcore, the podcast for people who love hardcore history.
You study history because it allows us to understand the present and prepare for the future.
Yeah, it's like Shakespeare or Greek tragedy.
Could you imagine what was in the Library of Alexandria?
I bet it was porn.
I'm not even wearing pants right now, Scott.
What's the old Clint Eastwood line? A man's got to know his limitations. I know my limitations.
The Talking Hardcore podcast is presented by Ace Industrial Solutions. Are you in need of skilled trade professionals for your next project? Look no further.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Talking Hardcore. Scott and Matt are joining me today. We're going to talk about the election. Today is November 5th, 2024, and as of right now, the election is, the states are counting votes. If you're in the United States of America, which I hope you are, because it's still pretty awesome. We're deciding who the president is, and right now, it's still up in the air. So we thought we would do a little bit of a live podcast. Well, not live is a dumb word.
Well, it is live.
But because we are alive.
It's live right now.
But we are not. I'm going to try to get it out tonight. So if you're listening to this, this should be out before the election results are done.
And any predictions we make, well,
And part of the fun of this is to get here and discuss a couple of different things. So I've been thinking a lot about this election and about these candidates lately, and I was talking to Matt about this the other day, and it sounded like something that maybe it would be a good idea for a topic to bring up on the podcast so that maybe other people can join in on the Discord channel and discuss.
sounds good.
So ever since we read The Fourth Turning, that's been going around in my head. Okay, just I've been thinking about the world that way, and regular listeners know I bring that up a lot. But the idea of The Fourth Turning, which is a book by Neil Patrick Howell, I believe that's right.
I can't check.
Yeah. So the idea is that we go through cycles that last 4 typical human generations. So 20 to 25 years is a typical cycle, and we go through 4 of them every century or so of a human lifetime. And every 4th cycle is called a crisis. And he predicted in the 90s that we were going to be starting a crisis in 2010. And in 2008, we had the mortgage crisis, the Great Recession, Trump, COVID, all these things. Okay. And the way these crises typically, the way he argues these crises typically resolve themselves is through either a civil war, an external war, or a huge depression. The last cycle of the turning was the Depression and World War II. And you come out of these crisis generations with unity, because it took something really bad to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the theory. Okay, and then since everybody's on the same page, you end up with this golden era for about 20 years. Okay. So the argument is that America's still in the middle of this crisis. We have another 5 to 10 years of that crisis going on.
Could you make an argument, George, that 2001 was the really bad thing? Like the .com bubble bursting and then the World Trade Center bombing.
But I mean, we did pretty good until the mortgage crisis, like economy-wise.
Yeah, but then the next 20 years were pretty good.
Well, no. 2008 was the Great Recession.
No, I gotcha.
Mortgage crisis, and then that rolled right into the Great Recession.
I'm just asking.
And then, obviously, things were so chaotic that Trump won, right? Like, he's a symptom. Okay, he's not the disease. The reason he was able to win is because he was able to tell people, hey, I understand everything's all jacked up, and people listen to him.
Well, it's still jacked up.
Right. Well, that's the point. If this Fourth Turning hypothesis is correct. That's because we're still in the middle of the hypothesis, or in the middle of the turning. But the thing I want to bring up is this: how do you get out of the fourth turning? Okay, and it always takes something really bad to get everybody on the same page.
Sure.
Okay, and to be willing to give up their personal sovereignty a little bit to build is what he makes the argument.
The question is,
well, let me get to my point, because I have an interesting thought on this, and then I would love to get your thoughts.
Okay.
So let me make that point. And Matt, I already went over this a little bit with you, so you're probably not going to be too surprised. But the idea is that things get so bad that finally people are willing to just work together to get over the partisanship. And right now things are super polarized and super partisan. Right? You have the politicians all calling each other communists or Nazis, which, okay, they're politicians. But then it really does seem like the Democrats just completely hate Trump voters, which last election was almost half the country, right? Hillary Clinton called them a basket of deplorables.
yeah,
Right? Joe Biden just called them garbage. They all look down their nose. I mean, I know personally people who are just traditional Democrat voters, union guys and stuff around here, that think that if you vote for Trump, it's because you're an idiot and you're low education and you're stupid. Which is funny, because some of the smartest people I know vote for Trump, and some of the smartest people I know vote for Harris. And there's no that doesn't correlate. But
I don't think it's an intelligence thing. I think it's a values thing.
Obviously, but that is not how traditional Democrats or the hardcore Democrats think. But what if what we're seeing now with Trump in this campaign is the start of unity? You have Tulsi Gabbard switching over. You have RFK. You have Elon. You have all these people that have always voted Democrat or been members of the Democrat Party. Tulsi Gabbard run the DNC. She was like the head of it for like a year or two when she was in the House. And you have all of these people joining with somebody who's running as a Republican, but who's not really a Republican. He's a populist. And they're joining together. And you never hear Trump say Americans are bad. Any of them. Even the ones that don't vote for him. He never says anything bad about actual Americans. So what if he's actually able, and this is probably doing a lot of work, and a lot of people are going to say I'm crazy for thinking this, but what if this is the start of us getting pulled out of the crisis? Instead of having to have a war, what if things got bad enough and now the technology allowed for us to pull out without the worst of the crisis?
Well, then it doesn't follow the cycle.
But yeah, I mean, there's always, you know how history works, right?
No, I know.
There's
but
trends, just like the one in the Civil War didn't follow the cycle. It didn't have the full crisis, according to Howell, and that's why it wasn't the best rebound and all that, right? So there are exceptions, and of course there would be. You can't look at history as a blueprint, right?
No, but that's what he's pitching the book on. Is it's a blueprint.
But the idea is these trends are human nature. Okay, things have to get so bad that eventually then we all come together to fix it, and then over the course of the next 3 generations, we forget how bad things can get, so that it has to get bad again.
Well, it's not.
But what if it's gotten bad enough that we fix it without letting it get into a war or a civil war or a depression?
Well, okay. So let me, if I can start here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to avoid a war.
True.
Okay. At this point, I'm just not sure we're going to be able to avoid it.
Right.
We have 2, 3 global conflicts going on right now. Russia and Ukraine, Israel and pretty much everybody else in the Middle East, or if you want to call it West Asia.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got going on? I mean, there's riots in Spain right now for how the government's handling part of the country being flooded. I mean, we got all kinds of stuff going on here in the U.S. I mean,
Right.
Venezuela collapsed. Brazil's going insane.
Because they're all going through the same part of their crisis. Because everybody our cycle's all synced up, buddy.
Yeah.
Because
you got
America,
North Korea sending troops to Russia now to fight in Ukraine. Like,
America is such a dominant culture, and everything. It kind of seems like maybe the world just kind of synced up to our cycle, and we've kind of exported a lot of our crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, Matt. What are your thoughts now that we've been talking for 10 minutes and you haven't even got a word in yet?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about analyzing history and predicting moves forward is that it can be changed by the act of being aware of it. And you guys
Exactly.
actually, when you talked to Dan Carlin about that on your show, that's what he said. That's what he said.
Yes, it is.
He said, he said, well, maybe that would be changed by our awareness that we are examining this process. So that kind of speaks to your point, George, that, pulling out before it gets too late might be a possibility, and that the fourth turning is the time when we actually pull our heads out of the cycle and get out, because we have all these factors and people like you were talking about it and bringing more awareness to it. Yeah, the other is that what does getting bad actually what is getting so bad that we unite again actually look like? Because right now it just seems to be like a lot of everybody is just having a lot of fun talking smack about each other, and that's people just enjoy that. You know what I mean?
Well,
I see that. I see us being mired in that for at least a while more.
Maybe
it's not helpful.
I would hope that. So that my thought is that hopefully this is the time. My idea is that if Trump wins, maybe the Democratic Party pulls its head out of its ass and stops being all about identity politics. And if they can stop being about identity politics, we can get back to being less polarized.
I think they've reached the point of no return. I don't think that's possible.
Well, it's always possible.
No, it's not possible.
I mean, it's definitely possible.
You have too many people that are thinking along those lines. It's not possible.
But they weren't before 2012. So if you can switch it on, you can switch it off.
No,
you can.
Once you push that rock off the cliff, buddy, it's not going to stop.
But I mean,
falling.
look at after the Civil War. Like, we went back to being a country, and that was after we actually had a war to fight each other.
I'm just saying, I don't.
So I mean, you can fix it.
I don't think it's possible.
What, for the Democratic Party or for the country?
I don't think it's possible. I think the Democratic Party can pull back the rhetoric. I think it's too bad for I think it's too late for the country.
Oh, I don't know. I think people will go along.
You have how many celebrities have trans kids?
No, but that's a fad.
No, exactly.
That's
that's the point, though.
But that's no different than anorexia was a fad when we were young.
Yeah, but
right. So,
but George fucked those kids up.
Yes, those kids will be messed up probably the rest of their life, but it's a very small percentage. As long as we stop doing that, it's okay.
Well,
right, like it now sucks for those kids, and there's going to be massive lawsuits.
Hold on,
a lot of doctors are about to get fucked.
Now that's my question. I was just about to bring that up. What about all the doctors that have backed this nonsense, this crazy shit?
Yes, okay, they're all getting sued. There's lawsuits coming, and that's going to fix a lot of this. Okay, lawsuits will fix a lot of that.
Well, it's not going
to work here anymore anyway.
No, I'm talking about DSM-5. It's just not going to. I mean, you have a lot of academics. You have a lot of established.
But let's get back to the point that I was talking about, because Matt said something that made me really think about it. What you said, Matt, about knowing about the history might be able to let us pull out of it. Well, because last time we were in a crisis, we had World War II, and things were so bad that we dropped atomic bombs on another country. So maybe we can avoid the crisis going that direction, because we know we cannot end up in a nuclear war, because it will be the worst thing ever. Right? So that might be the knowing history that allows us to pull out of the crisis before it hits what historically would have been the worst. Right? Because we don't have that option anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that
everybody.
Sort of restraint. That sort of restraint worked. What was it? 15, 8, 20, 23 years? No, so like 1945, 1955, 1963, right? So what, 18 years? after we dropped the bombs
Right.
in the Cuban Missile Crisis, because of the proximity of those horrible events and
Right.
because of conscientious leadership. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it may be so far in the rearview mirror now to
Maybe.
where I think I mean, it's just weird that nukes are even in the air again. You know what I mean? The thought of it in this time of day.
I don't know how that's ever going to not be a thing, because they're never going away.
Yeah.
Well,
So when
but they
things
don't-
get crazy, we're going to have to think about nuclear war again. I think maybe the exception was that for 20 years there, we didn't really worry about it. And it just happens to be that that was our prime age. When we came of age was when Americans didn't really have to worry about nuclear war. Like, that wasn't for our parents. They grew up doing bomb raids under their desks. Right? We didn't do that. Matt, I don't know about you, but we didn't do that.
No, but
And Detroit we lived near Detroit, and Detroit was high up on their list of if the Soviet Union attacked
in manufacturing.
Yes, but like we never had to do those drills because the Cold War was over.
Yeah.
Right? And so nobody even really worried about nuclear war for about 20 years or 30 years. But that might have been a fluke.
Well, just because it wasn't brought up didn't mean that, it just because you don't talk about the gun in the closet doesn't mean the gun in the closet's not there.
Well, yeah, but that's the point, right? It wasn't something that was in the zeitgeist.
Where's the threat of nuclear Armageddon coming from right now? What would trigger it off? There's a very specific answer I'm looking for. Where do you think it would come from?
Well, the worry is there's a couple, but for me, the main worry is what happens if Ukraine Russia turns into a bigger war.
Right. And what is causing
is backed into
all
a
of that
corner.
pressure to place Russia in that sort of a position to where it's
there's a lot going on with that.
Well, see, now
what's the main thing? What's the main thing?
Ukraine and NATO.
That's absolutely correct. That's where I was going with it. And who is less likely to continue that pressure? Who happens to be a candidate in the upcoming election?
Trump.
Whose party? Yes, absolutely correct. I agree with you. And I'm not even supporting the Republicans in this election. I 100% agree with you. I think the Democratic Party, you and I were talking about this, we're way back in the Clinton era. Putin said, hey, what if I join NATO? And Clinton was like, maybe that doesn't sound like a good idea. Later on, Obama, hey, what if I join NATO? Maybe, I don't think so. No. Now all of a sudden, like, okay, just don't put NATO on our borders. Okay, boom, here's this one. Boom, here's that one. Boom, here's that one. Now we're talking about Ukraine. Here it is. I don't think Putin is going to actually nuke somebody, but
I don't either.
The reason that conversation is even happening is because of the pressure being applied that happened over and over again from a certain side of the aisle.
And I don't think we're going to have a nuclear war. Okay? I don't even think we're going to have a war where nukes get used. Okay? Because I think mutually assured destruction still holds. Okay? And it held for the Cold War, and it still holds now. But it is kind of nuts that that's something we have to be worried about right now.
I kind of, and I think we've talked about this before, but I remember reading like statistics from like war games.
Right.
Did we talk about this, George? I don't know if we talked
about it.
Probably,
but go ahead, say it again.
But anyway, so they were saying like no matter what, every war game or every war game simulation or whatever simulations they ran, nobody actually pushes the button. Like to unleash the nukes. Like, so if Putin's cornered in the Kremlin or whatever, and Allied troops or whatever, American troops are outside the doors, nobody pushes. They still don't push the button.
Yes.
And I just, or maybe he does push the button, but everybody else knows they've already lost and nobody wants to wipe out the world, so they don't actually.
No fucking way that happens.
You never know.
Listen, there's a 0% chance, and I gotta be honest. If I was the one and the Russians, and I had my finger on the button, I'm like, fuck you. You shouldn't have fucked with us. If you're blowing up my country, you kill my auto, I kill your auto. This is what happens, Larry.
Ooh, then you fuck a stranger in the ass.
This is what happens.
So, I mean, I
would totally go full John Goodman in that. There's no way.
Maybe
if I mean, who's gonna know that you did that? Like, everybody's dead.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna be like the bigger man and just take that whooping.
You never know. I think I
you're
argued
right
with you
that nobody's going to press the button.
I think I argued with you on that one though, because I think somebody would press the button.
Well,
They'd be like, you know what? If we're done, screw it. Everybody's going with me.
That's why mutually assured destruction still holds. That's why you can't have a total war with Russia. That's why it's a really bad idea for the U.S. to be in a hot war with Russia. That's why ending the Ukraine-Russia war is such a good fucking idea.
I don't disagree with that.
And that's why the fact that it's Putin has, for one party to take this, he has to completely lose, or there's no truce, is nuts.
Hold on. Or the war never ends because there's a clause in NATO or in the UN where a country cannot join NATO or the UN if they're in a current conflict.
But how long can they continue that?
As long as they have to.
I don't think so.
I think so. We're giving them no choice.
They're spending lives.
We're giving them no choice.
They're spending lives.
We're giving them no choice.
Well, yeah, but they're going to run out of lives.
You know, when this war
you only have so many young men you can send to war.
When this war first started, the Chechens, they said, hey, give us a month and the entire war will be over. You'll have Ukraine. Yeah. And that's what they told Putin. Putin's like, that's like, and I look, my hat's off to them because
people are cocky, Scott.
Well,
that's not surprising.
Not that they're cocky. So that's their culture. Though.
These are the kind of things that are important about this election because these are the kind of things that are on the table.
Yes, it is. And there's the flip side to that too, where Trump has said, I'm going to end the war over there day 2, which gives Putin an easy path where he just draws out negotiations, makes him a liar or not able to back up his word.
Trump's never afraid to be wrong.
And then after a certain more and more time, we end up giving up way more than we would have normally had we just come in with without that promise first. So
I don't think it'll be that difficult to end that war. To be honest, I think if you tell,
if you cut off the money, it would happen really quickly.
If you tell Ukraine, come to a deal because we have to stop supporting you, and you tell Russia, if you're not willing to move, then I will keep supporting them. So figure this shit out, and the U.S. is going to have to give up some stuff. They're going to have to agree that Ukraine can't go into NATO. They're going to have to put that in fucking writing. They're going to have to do that. And
and then we have to stand by it.
Yeah.
And I don't see any indication that a Harris administration would do anything other than perpetuate the war in Ukraine without actually moving to win it, in a decisive fashion.
Because how could you win it? What is the possible scenario where Ukraine wins that war?
The best case scenario over there right now, Mearsheimer talked about that. I think it was him. He was on Breaking Points. He's like, basically his prediction is just like, okay, this is going to end with a messy victory for Russia and a significant concession of territory by Ukraine.
There's
whoever faces up to that fact first and deals with it accordingly is the smart choice for whoever is in charge of whatever.
Because what are the odds that Ukraine could
including
actually
Zelensky
win?
Including Zelensky. He needs to own up the facts too.
He's going to have to make a tough decision, man. That's not easy.
Yeah.
I don't know Zelensky very well. I don't know much about him, but I know
I've met him a few times, but
I did too. He was in a movie. He was
he was on that America's Got Talent or Ukraine's Got Talent playing the piano with his dick.
Nice.
He was at Did you ever see that?
No.
Did you see that, Matt?
I've seen his TV show, but
he was in front of a panel of judges playing a piano with his penis.
And now he's
I'm not even making that up.
Country at war.
I wish you had your phone, Scott. Go get your phone.
All right,
Google that shit because I'm not even making that up.
I gotta go get it.
So people think Trump because he was on a reality show for all those years, you're fired. But dude, he was playing the piano with his junk, and now he's a wartime president. That seems to be
it was
keeping his country together.
Probably, if not the most, then certainly one of the highest rated corrupt nations in Europe, and they got tired of it and they did a wacko election, and then he was a failing president prior to the invasion. So when Trump says hey, it never would have happened on my watch, maybe not, because there were pro-Russian elements in Ukraine and still are, and it's possible that a coup could have been enacted with U.S. support.
Your mic is still hot. You fucking goon, your mic is still hot. You're up there looking at your phone going, shit, fuck. Oops. I don't mind the swear words, but Matt and I are trying to have a serious conversation. Oh, sorry.
That's funny.
Anyway, go ahead, Matt. I was listening. as much as I could.
Yeah, so it's kind of a different situation. Not really though, where people are tired of corruption and the status quo and blah blah blah. You know what? Let's zoom out a little bit here. So, like, I'm reading a book about the deep state, and it just kind of occurred to me that the larger the federal government becomes, the less elections matter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Because you're basically perpetuating an agenda.
So, Matt, let's go into some actual coverage of the election right now. It looks like Trump just is going to lose Virginia by 20,000 votes.
Wow, I heard they called Indiana for him, though.
Oh, yeah, a long time ago.
Yep.
Come on, Matt. Get your head out of your ass. That was a long time ago.
I've been working all day.
Yeah, sure. You're working still.
Not even 20,000.
Oh,
votes.
no. It's not even 20,000 votes. He is in Virginia with
15,000 behind.
With how many left to reporting? So 69% of the vote in.
31%.
But so Elon shared on Twitter that Polymarket, the betting thing, they have Trump at 90% right now.
Wow.
Because he's looking like he's getting Pennsylvania. So he's, who knows because of the early voting stuff. But in Pennsylvania, he's up by 90,000 votes.
Wow.
Well, now is the time to throw a bet on Kamala Harris.
Don't take. Well, yeah. I would just straight up not bet on this. I think it's too crazy.
It is too. Well, right now, from what I'm looking at, Trump has 242 electoral college votes.
That's what they've got him predicted at.
Right now,
live
forecast on Google.
So that's giving him North Carolina, Georgia.
Yep.
Wow.
So Montana,
yep.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio.
You didn't have to read them all, buddy.
I'm just letting you know. That's his 242.
You could have just said all those typical red ones.
Well, that's not all typical red.
No, but yeah. That's interesting, though. All right, Matt, what are your thoughts on this election?
I mean, do you guys think that either of these candidates is capable of uniting this country?
Well, okay, wait a minute.
That's interesting.
I would say yes, but the rhetoric has been so just
I agree.
Vitriol towards Donald Trump that agree. It's not possible.
I don't know if it's not possible. Look at how many more people Trump picked up voters in the Latin community. Now he's polling at something like 50% of Latin Americans.
Yeah.
Okay. He picked up some exit polls were showing him as much as 25% of black males.
I can tell you why.
He's picking up votes.
I can tell you why.
Why?
Because the Democrats push Latinx.
Yeah.
Now, as soon as you start screwing with, Latinos and their heritage and their language.
Yeah. Way they talk about the whole world.
Yeah, it's not.
Bananas.
People don't like that. I don't know if they know this or not. But people really don't like that. Like, your culture is entirely wrong. And then people are like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, we're going to redefine it for you to make it easier for us to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People don't like that.
No, they said not to. So, New York Times has him as an 86% chance of winning.
Jesus Christ.
Right now, their estimate is he gets 297. That's huge. See, Matt,
here's one thing
what needs to happen for unity. I want to answer your question.
Yeah, please do.
I think unity is on the table if this is a complete ass kicking. If he gets 300 or 297 electoral college votes, that might be enough. It might be enough because Trump is not going to come in there and villainize the people who voted for Kamala. He's going to go after the media, but they're dying. So this polarization will end when the legacy media dies. And it might take more than 4 years. But look at Trump and Vance. They did all the podcasts. Even Kamala did Call Her Daddy. Like, she fucked up not doing Rogan. That was an unforced error. She should have went and done Rogan.
3
The only
hours
reason
in a
to not
chair.
do the only,
Her veneer of whatever she calls policy
maybe.
and ideology would have. It's about
But
3
Joe's
inches
not a
deep,
gotcha
but it would
journalist,
have
though,
shown.
right? Joe's not a gotcha
Yeah,
journalist. He just wants to have a good
yeah,
conversation. So if you can't have a
yeah,
conversation with somebody for 3 hours, okay, then I guess you can't do that podcast. But that's all it would have been. He doesn't.
yeah,
He's not a dick, and he's not a journalist. He's just a
yeah.
podcaster.
And it seems that the Democratic Party's strategy for Kamala Harris has been shut up and be not Trump.
Yes, yes, that's all they're running on the whole time. Is if you ask her a question, it's, well, Trump wants to do this. And it's like, okay, well, what do you
Is
want to do? Well, Trump's
dodging.
going to do
It's
this.
she's had difficulty pinning anything down. She's very watery, trying to be all things to all people. She has, changed when you
Did
say,
you
why
see
did you change?
today?
Can you tell me what caused you to change your mind on this subject? She acts
Right.
like somebody held
Nothing.
a gun to her head prior to
Right.
the interview. It's
Right.
very thin, and it's
Well,
very
this is what
thin,
happens
and
when
it's
you have
like,
a candidate who didn't go through the process of the
she
primaries.
didn't go through the process. Not a single American citizen voted for Kamala Harris to become the presidential nominee.
And what you get then is you get a candidate who's not capable.
No,
right?
it would have been, she would have, even if she received all the, everything that you're supposed to do to get there. I think she would have been a stronger candidate because of that, but because she
It would have
didn't,
either sharpened
because
her or she would have lost.
Right. Because she was anointed, they have to play this sideline game, and it's just people aren't stupid. I see is two things. I see that people like you and Scott and myself and our listeners, whatever, a lot of people do delve more deeply into these issues, but a lot more just look at the the face of it, the surface. And on one hand, you have Trump standing up and saying fight, fight, fight after he got shot in the face. And
Which
the other,
is the
you
most
have
iconic thing ever to happen
really
to a president.
It really is. And then the other side, you have a woman of color running for president. So that's basically what they're looking at. Both of those things are very powerful if it appeals to you. You know what I mean? So
it's about identity politics.
It might come down to that.
Still.
The entire thing might just come down to that.
This is hopefully what happens if Trump wins. And this has not happened in the last two elections, but hopefully what happens if Trump wins is the Democratic Party goes, what we're doing doesn't work. We have lost to Donald Trump twice.
Yeah.
We need to have somebody else in control of the party. We need to get rid of Obama. He's done. Put him to pasture. Stop letting him make all the decisions in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, and start coming back to the middle. And you know what, Scott? There's history of that. The polarization eventually snaps, and people start coming back to the middle. And that could happen now. Are they going to just do the same Trump presidency again? Are they going to do the same thing and try to impeach him constantly and make up all this bullshit? If they do that, even less people are going to believe it this time. Even less. So it's either they stop that shit, or they're going to die. And it needs to be one of those two things. The Democratic Party needs to fix itself and start actually listening to its constituents, like they didn't do with Hillary versus Bernie, like they didn't do with Biden, like they sure shit didn't do with this election. More people would have rather had RFK than Kamala or Biden. They don't listen to their voters because they think the people in charge of the Democratic Party think they're smarter than everyday Americans. And they think they're the smartest people in the room. And they lost to Trump once thinking that. And they might lose to Trump again thinking that. And maybe that is the time that actually is come to Jesus. They figure this out. But Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, these people need to be done. And the party needs to go with young guys like Shapiro and other guys that are actually decent politicians that actually serve their constituents. Fetterman is an interesting dude.
Yeah, but when you have somebody like that, like Tulsi Gabbard, they expelled her.
Well, but that's because Obama and Hillary Clinton were running that party with an iron fist still.
Well,
if this fixes that, because there's a lot of rich Democrats that are going to stop giving money. A lot of rich donors are going to be like, dude, look at how much money Kamala spent just since she took over the nomination. What is it? Over $1 billion.
Yeah.
Just since she took over the nomination in June or July. That's a lot of money. People are not going to keep doing this. They're not going to keep throwing good money after bad.
Well, they will if they think it's going to benefit them.
But yeah, that's the point.
People still bet.
But
on
it's not
horse
going to
racing.
benefit. It's not going to benefit them.
They still bet on horse races.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it this time. What if it wasn't Trump and it was J.D. Vance or Vivek Ramaswamy? How big of an ass kicking would this been? The only reason Trump's the nominee is because they kept indicting him enough that he had all the will. He had so much political will. Like DeSantis would have kicked the shit out of Kamala. He would have. Look at Florida. Florida is a red state now. Florida was not a red state in 2016. Florida was a swing state. Now it is red. DeSantis wins. And if it was against Kamala, he would have kicked her ass. They better get their heads out of their ass, or they're going to be losing for the next 10 years or 20 years.
Well,
And I don't think it's good for the country when one of the parties is not acting right. I don't think that's good for the country.
Well, a little bit of an update here.
Yeah.
Georgia's reporting 88%, and Trump is in the lead by 200,000 votes or 150,000 votes.
So he's looking to lock up Georgia.
North Carolina, he's in the lead by 100,000 votes or a little 120, with 84% reporting.
What's going on in Michigan?
He's winning Michigan.
No.
Currently, he's winning.
Holy shit!
Yeah, he's winning Michigan by about 20,000 votes.
Wayne County went red right now.
That's crazy.
Okay, pause. Let's talk about this. We live in Michigan. We live in Wayne County. Wayne County is Detroit. Okay, Detroit is 600,000 people. Okay, a city of mostly black people. And right now, you look at the map. Wayne County is red.
Yep. And
That's
that's
the only blue counties are Oakland, Macomb, and Washtenaw, which is where Ann Arbor is.
and Grand Rapids.
See,
Yeah, but I mean,
so
like
you
that is
guys live in
crazy.
Michigan.
Yeah.
I live in Washington State, and I can tell you, I would be surprised if my county were not red. I honestly have no intel on this, but it's just what I see mostly around. There's another
Sure.
presence here as well, but I just don't know. I just don't know.
Well,
I don't think Washington is gonna.
The problem is you have Seattle, and then which is where most of the people
Seattle
live
is
in the
always
state.
the problem. Yeah, there's Seattle. There's a lot of other
All the
places
fucking
like that.
rain.
Well, but it's the same thing with Illinois. Like, you can look at Illinois; the entire state is red except for Chicago, maybe Springfield. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. Springfield's red. Chicago is won by the Democrats. I mean, there's that's it. I mean, and when I actually traveled to Illinois quite a bit, and I went to other areas other than Chicago, and a lot of people in the state were a little upset because whatever Chicago wanted to do, pretty much the rest of the state followed, because that's where the majority of the population was.
Right.
And that's not how the system's necessarily supposed to work.
Well, no, I mean that's kind of how it works.
Yeah,
But at least they have to go to those states. That's what the Electoral College does. Do you realize that if we didn't have the Electoral College, politicians would never go anywhere but the 6 major cities in the country? Sure, right? Like L.A. Like how many people live in L.A. proper? If you're not counting illegal aliens,
I think it's like
it's a shit ton.
15 million, 20 million.
So right now, he's leading in Pennsylvania, Michigan, North Carolina, and Georgia, and tight in Virginia. Oh man, this is looking like it could actually be a mollywop.
And Wisconsin and Minnesota and Arizona.
Again, New York Times is giving him 85% chance. Listen, I don't like having to follow politics like this. I don't like having to give a shit this much. I really hope we can get back to. I hope we can get back to less polarization. But
I want to see presidential candidates speaking about each other in civil terms and working together. And something you said, George. If Trump wins again, are the Democrats going to follow the same tactic and just impeach him? I mean, if it's valid, fine. But if it's hatred and vitriol and vindictiveness,
how will we know if it's valid?
I would be less inclined to be associated with them because I would be like, people just get some work done.
You're sick of it. I mean, because
Just get some work done. Work
people
together.
didn't realize how bullshit the Russian collusion story was until, 3 years later. But that was all
How much time
created.
do we waste on that nonsense? Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
it derailed most of the stuff he wanted to do in that term. And that was the whole point of it. And that was the whole point of it, right? That's what they wanted to have happen. The point was to keep him from draining the swamp because they're all swamp creatures, right? That's the thing. So one of the things that makes me actually excited about if Trump wins is Elon Musk and Robert Kennedy Jr. Because you know what?
And Tulsi Gabbard.
No, but
Vivek Ramaswamy.
RFK's huge because that Make Americans Healthy Again is fucking amazing. Let's do that. Man, go to the grocery store and try to buy stuff without toxins and seed oils and shit. You can't fucking do it unless you're buying raw food. That's it. You want to even just buy tortilla shells? It's almost impossible.
What you're gonna put?
Cereal. Go look for any cereal that doesn't have canola oil in it. Why the fuck are they putting canola oil in cereal? It doesn't even make sense. And it's in all of them because it's cheap. That's it. RFK says we're going to get that shit out because the FDA is corrupt. They're bought and paid for by the food industry. It is time to fix that shit. And Elon Musk
he might get
wants to go in there and cut government spending.
If Trump
well, shit, he got rid of 90% PETA of. What'd you say, Matt?
Yeah. I was just following up on your RFK thing, where he might become like a health czar or something if Trump wins, and follow his agenda. Yeah,
I just think it's a good idea. Look at the chronic disease. How many people look at autism rates and chronic disease and skin problems and all of this stuff? They're through the roof. There is a reason for that, and it's probably not one thing, but fuck, let's figure that out. Instead of just coming up with drugs that makes pharma rich, let's figure that out. Let's figure out why Americans are, like me, way more obese than they were even 20 years ago when they lived mostly, or 30 years ago when they lived mostly the exact same lifestyle. Americans aren't less active than they were then. They're just fatter. Let's figure that out.
Well, one big thing is sugar.
Well, but Scott, we ate a lot of sugar 30 years ago. You had the same cereals. You had fucking Cookie Crisp and Captain Crunch. You had the same things.
No, I mean on average.
But my point is,
Americans.
I don't think that's actually the case. It's partly sugar. You're right, but it's not just sugar. Well, it's seed oils.
Hold on.
It's all of these things.
The funny thing is, Matt, when my wife first moved here from Russia, she said the amount of sugar you have in your food is obnoxious.
Sure.
Like you can't even eat bread without it tasting sweet.
Yeah, because it tastes awesome.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
But that's a drug.
But that's,
yeah, for sure.
But that's what she
McDonald's puts sugar in its fucking burgers.
Yeah, everything has a sweetener in it.
But let's fix this stuff because putting everybody on Ozempic is not going to be a good idea.
No.
And that company's going to be the richest company in the world. Because they're going to put that on Medicaid and Medicare.
Well, I have to bring that up. So there are some actual terrible side effects to drugs cancer.
Right. We don't know. The point is we don't know. So you're going to just put everybody on that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just like the COVID vaccine. That's why somebody like RFK is actually a big deal because he doesn't have a vested interest in not pissing off the pharmaceutical industry. He doesn't have a vested interest in not pissing off the big corporations, the big food companies, like Kellogg. All right? Do you realize that in other countries, they're not allowed to use those food dyes that cause cancer? But here they are.
Well, they got
700 ingredients are legal to put in your food in Europe. In 1950 in America, it was 700 ingredients. You know how many it is now in America? 10,000.
Jesus.
That's fucking broken. And that's what I'm talking about in crisis. You have faith in these institutions, and they slowly prove that the faith is misguided because they slowly get corrupted. And the only way to fix it is to either blow it all up and start from scratch, which is not good, or to fix it. And it's hard because there's vested financial interest in not fixing it. But that's why Trump and people like Elon and RFK can actually fix this stuff. because they don't have any skin in the game. They're not trying to get a job from pharma. They're not trying to get a job from big ag. All right, those guys are already rich.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy Elon. You're just not gonna. He's got too much money. You couldn't afford it. All right. You're not going to buy RFK because he actually has principles. Now, he's wrong about a lot of stuff. Let's not pretend like he's some saint and genius. But he's right about a lot of stuff too. It's time to fix these things that have gotten fucked. And the only way to do it is to unfuck them or tear them down completely. So here's our chance.
Well,
This is our chance to avoid a complete collapse. It's not. And it's not going to be easy. But that's why if the Republicans can get the House and the Senate and the presidency, and they actually have these people in, did you know that most presidents, when they win the election, after the election day, they get funding from the budget for the government to create their transition team. And most transition teams are almost all corporate lobbyists, and they tell you who they want, who's the people for your who's the people you need to hire for all your 10,000 appointments you have to make as president.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Trump, that's how he got fucked the first time. So now he's funding his own transition team, and he started hiring people like RFK and Tulsi and Elon and a bunch of other smart people already that are not corporate lobbyists. That's how you fix this stuff. Get the money out of the system. Get the people with. Eventually, it can get bad enough where you can get the will behind that stuff to fix it. But you have to break through all the propaganda because the people in charge have a vested interest in not fixing it.
That's true.
They're going to they're going to lose a lot of money in the short term. In the long term, they'll actually make more money. But in the short term, they're going to lose a lot of money. So they have a vested interest in this, and that's why they pull out all the stops in the propaganda. Trump's a Nazi. Elon's a Nazi. That Madison Square Garden rally was a Nazi rally. All this stuff. We're going to do whatever it takes to say, and we'll say whatever it takes because our very existence and the way we make our living is going to end if Trump actually drains the swamp. Because that's the real swamp. Bureaucrats.
For sure.
And that Vivek posted this on Twitter today, and he said, when they always say we have to save our democracy, if you just replace the word bureaucracy with democracy, then all of a sudden all their policies make sense. They just want to save the bureaucracy because that's where they're all employed. It's all bureaucracy, and there's no need for it. It just builds up over time. So the only way to get rid of it is to get rid of it, to fucking fire people. And it's going to hurt. But that's what you have to do. Anyway, Matt, what are you thinking?
What is the job of the President of the United States to each of you guys?
Right. What should it be, or what is it now?
What does it mean to you?
Okay. I love the Constitution. So for me, the job of the President of the United States is to run the defense of the country and run the executive branch, which should be way smaller than it is. But that's the problem, is the legislature has abdicated its duty to make laws to the executive branch through the administrative state. They make the EPA, the FDA, the CDC, they make all these things that are now under the executive branch and then say, you go run this, you make the rules. But those people aren't elected, okay? And those people aren't supposed to make the rules. Congress is. So yes, the executive branch shouldn't be the one that has to fix all this stuff. But Congress is too busy just worrying about getting reelected. That's all they think about. That's all they do, right? The vast majority of them are just worried about getting reelected. So the executive branch it's supposed to be smaller. It's supposed to be a check on the power of the legislature. That's the point of it. That's the biggest thing. And worry about defense. Instead, the executive branch now has to deal with everything. They're giving us their tax plans when they're running for president. That should not be a thing.
Yeah.
But the problem is the president is also the head of the party. That's fucked. That's not supposed to be how it works, right? The legislature, even if it's the same party, is supposed to be at odds with the executive branch. And yet you have Elizabeth Warren talking about how Biden can find other ways besides the executive order that the Supreme Court said is constitutional to forgive student loans. You're like, lady, if you want to forgive student loans, work with your other congressmen and senators to do that, because that's the branch that can do that. But that's harder than just saying, well, the guy who runs our party is the executive. We're on the same team against the other team. It's supposed to be the legislature that does that shit.
I have an update.
Yeah, what's that?
Yes, Zelensky does play the piano with his penis.
Told you.
All right.
It's bananas,
Scott, what
right?
is the job of the president? Scott, what's the job of the president to you, man?
You know what? I think the president is. It's kind of hard to explain, at least for me. But I think the job of the president is like he's the coach of the team. That's what I think he is. I mean, he's maybe like I don't want to say CEO, but like a forward-thinking individual that one manages a current situation and plans for future development or future progress. I understand that doesn't sound maybe
because they're not incentivized for forward thinking.
I understand they're not, and then but you can't say that, because if you look at the Obama administration, he had forward thinking, but it was to propagate the party. You get what I'm saying?
I think there's an argument that Obama's still running the country right now.
I think some of his policies are.
No, I don't think it's his policies.
Oh, you think he's?
I don't think Joe Biden's running the country.
Oh, no, I don't think
so. I think there's a good chance that it's actually Obama, because all the people that are running the country answer to him.
Well, I don't think Joe Biden's running the country. I think the DNC by committee is running the country.
I think the DNC through Obama and maybe Hillary.
It's a possibility.
Anyway,
or both.
Did you finish your answer? I'm sorry to interrupt.
But no, and basically...
Is he the quarterback?
I'd say he's more the coach.
Okay.
I would give you took
a more existential idea of it than what I did.
I would say the quarterback's more like Congress, and then the referees are the judicial system.
Yeah, you're not thinking about that right at all.
No,
not at all. They're supposed to be equal branches.
Well, they are equal.
Well, no, the coach can cut the quarterback. The coach can bench the quarterback. Right. That.
Well, all right.
That's not a good
it's just a poor analogy.
It's not a good analogy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're both wrong. Can I tell you?
I love it.
Go ahead, Matt. What's it to you? What's the president?
One second. Breaking news.
Well,
breaking news. New York Times called
right.
California for Kamala Harris.
No.
Anyway, go ahead, Matt. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
All right. So, to me, now, as your listeners know, I am a major shareholder in both Raytheon and Northrop Grumman. So, to me, the job of the president of the United States is to start wars around the world so I can sell shit to the government and those countries, and also acquire the contracts to rebuild them. Period.
I think you're underestimating how much the president and other of our politicians are actually influenced by foreign donors. Right? So I see what you're saying, and that's funny. I'm sorry.
They call Israel the real head of the GOP, as a matter of fact.
Well, that's silly, because they all vote Democrats. So what sense does that make? You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that doesn't make sense.
It's a weird dichotomy. It's a weird dichotomy, isn't it? Like, you have people on the ground voting Democrat, but then you have Netanyahu.
Because the Democrats are not the party of. They're Dick Cheney's party. Matt, they're Dick Cheney's party. The Democrats are no longer the peace-loving people.
And that is why I voted for Kamala Harris in this election, to perpetuate the conflict in the United States.
To keep their stock prices up.
To perpetuate the conflict in the United States military ordnance proving ground, Eastern Europe, otherwise known as the sovereign nation of Ukraine.
Right. It's interesting, man. Like,
They also called out Washington for Harris, by the way.
Yeah, shocking. Shocking. So,
yeah, I figure so.
Matt, I think that's why Trump is so intriguing to regular people. Because It doesn't
is
seem like foreign countries can buy him. And he didn't start wars.
Not
actually
with the
ended.
usual means, but I think the perception, at least, is that with flattery he can be persuaded. You know?
Maybe you're right. I think that has definitely worked on him before, right? But I also wonder how much of that is overblown. When you actually listen to the guy talk, which I've now listened to a few probably 4 or 5 hours of him just having conversation, and you listen to tell stories of how he was doing negotiations with these other foreign powers. You're like, yeah, that's exactly what we should do. And it's stuff that
I
Biden did
listened
not
to
do.
the entire Joe Rogan interview, and I told you this, and I've heard this before, said this before. He knows a remarkable amount of details about the way the government works, about recollect the military down to the bullet. You know what I mean? Like what's going on.
When
all these details of like how the operate.
Yep.
And a similar question. I don't think I've never heard it from Kamala Harris break it down that way. Where she's like, they took all our bullets and all this kind of thing.
The media will tell you that Trump's a dumbass. They will say he's stupid.
That's why Joe Rogan was so valuable, dude.
Because when you listen to him, you know he's not stupid, right? He may talk like a New York asshole, which I think is that he does, but he's not stupid. Like when I listen to that, I'm like, okay, that guy's smarter than me.
Yeah,
I think he's smarter than me. And I think if you want to be president, you should be smarter than me.
He is intriguing to me, man, and this is a very weird one for me.
Kamala's smarter than me, but
I'm voting for an administration.
And I sure don't think Tim Walz is. I don't think he's smarter than me either. But I
know nothing about that guy, and I honestly don't care. Yeah,
God, he seems like such a goon, such a goofball.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just weird.
Vance went on Tim Dillon and it was very interesting.
You didn't listen to his Rogan podcast? It was great.
No, I didn't hear that one. I heard an hour with him on Tim Dillon, and it was really cool.
He was really good on Rogan. It was a great conversation.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it was very interesting. Like the guy he's everything that the Democrats should be wanting to hold up, right? Like the guy came from nothing. He's the perfect example of the American dream, right? That guy grew up with a mom who was addicted to opiates and had to live with his grandma in the shitty trailer park in West Virginia, and then Ohio, poor as hell. Went into the Marines, used that to go to to get into Harvard. I mean, used his GI Bill to pay for Harvard, and put himself and made himself into like the possible vice president and really wealthy. Like that's the American dream. Like the point is that works for everybody still. You can do that. And the Democrats will tell you you can do that as long as you're white. But that's horseshit. It's horseshit. You can do that. It doesn't matter what color you are. This is America. And America is still one of the few places on earth where that can happen. And we take that for granted here because it's always been like that. But like in other countries, that stuff just doesn't happen. And remember what we had before that is you had this class system where you didn't rise up unless it was super rare, right? Now it's encouraged, and it's part of the culture here. America is exceptional because of stuff like that, and we can get back to focusing on that and make it easier for everybody to do what he did. That's what you should do, right? Help.
We talked about this before. We talked about this before when we were talking on another episode when we were talking about we're talking about we talked about the middle class.
Yeah.
And I really see that as opportunities for children. Like we talked about this on a previous episode. Now, I mean, I work in a dude, my job, like today at work, I went to go service a property. It's one of my project people. It's a mom. She works really hard. You know, right. She got her. There's bad stuff going on. Her kids are not living in good conditions, and it's like right. I am all about the kids. I am all about opportunities for the next generation. I see. We were talking about the aftermath of the Cold War and the benefit for America. This is in the context of Rome after the war. and all the money
Right.
that came in. And really,
Right.
I see the middle class as being, people talk about it, but I'm living it and I see it. And it breaks
Mhm.
my heart, and it's become the most important work in the world to me, is that giving children the opportunity to not just because them receiving an education is not my job, but
Right.
my job is helping to provide them an environment at home in which they can use that education, absorb it, and actually like move forward with it in contemporary with people who are living in better conditions than they are. And
Right.
it just smacks right in the heart of the middle class for me, providing opportunities for people to come up. This woman has made her choice. She is suffering at a certain level to provide for her children. That's great. She's made her choice. It's admirable. It's heartwarming. It's noble. But the kids need that opportunity to do like what you're talking about JD Vance did, was just come up. That could be anything, or she could be dragged down into really bad conditions. Really bad
Right.
conditions. And
Right.
I want to see the heart of this country become stable again, to where everybody's
Right.
success story has the equal opportunity, and it's not just for white
Mhm.
people or whatever. You know what I mean? There's no narrative there providing
Because it doesn't matter.
obstacles or opportunities. It doesn't
now
matter, and it is
it's to
really
figure
it's
out-
why America is so great. That's where
Yep.
they say you could come to America and be anything. It's the freaking it's coming up like you just described, and it
So
really
true.
to
Look
the
at how
middle
many
class,
immigrants
man.
come over here and drive taxis or open a restaurant so their kids can be
and,
doctors.
and they're fine. They're
Like,
fine
that's
with
a
that. Yeah,
real
they're
thing.
just providing for their
That's
kids.
a real thing. That's what you do, right? And that's how you make change. And that is still amazing about America. And that should be fostered and not looked down upon. And the more we focus on identity politics, the more we focus on what divides us. We need to get on the same page with how you help people, because I do think we need to help make sure that everybody can get a good education, because that's the way you come up with good, healthy food and a good education, right?
Yep.
But you can't just give people things, because we know humans are incentive based. So yes, while the what was it, LBJ's policies, right? The social policies of LBJ. I can't remember the name of it, but
Square New Deal or whatever.
no, yeah, it wasn't the New Deal, but it was something like that.
All right.
The Great Society, that's what it was.
Okay. Right,
Yeah,
right,
that
right.
sounds like a good idea, but what do you do when you get all these people that are now dependent on the government for their food and their money?
Yeah, I really
A
would rather
certain
see people just
percentage
have
of them-
a good job, a union job. Maybe I'm a union
Yeah.
supporter, but I don't work
Yeah.
union anymore, but I have for a long time.
Sure.
But just really based on your employer, your loyalty to your employer's loyalty to you, your ability
Exactly.
to work hard and dedicate yourself, and really
Right.
you get out of it what you put into this system, man. Not like
Right.
at a certain point
Because
I
it
am
doesn't work.
90%
Humans are
dependent on the
incentive-
government.
Right. Humans are incentive based, and a certain percentage of the people are just
Yeah.
going to take what's free and not try harder. And that's just
That's a
every
really good point,
species-
and I agree
every
with that as
species
well.
is like that. I mean, every species is
Yeah.
like that. It's not a
I
human
agree.
fault. It is a that's part of nature, right? Listen, if you gave me the right amount of money, I would just fish all day. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be like Elon.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go
Yeah.
bust my ass to make things to get us to Mars. I'm not. I'll just fish. Like
I'm
that's me.
I'm the other side of the coin.
Some of it, but also a little. You're not fully on the other side of the coin. You do take some time and enjoy yourself a little bit. But okay, let's get back to the election real quick to wrap this up so I can get this posted tonight. All right, as of right now, where it sits, man, we'll see. He's looking like he might take Michigan,
And Wisconsin, and Minnesota, and Pennsylvania.
not Minnesota.
Oh yeah.
Dude, if he takes Minnesota, that means Walz was an atrocious pick.
14%.
Well, that's so
14% reporting, and Donald Trump's up by 100,000 votes.
Wow, but that's so little. And okay, let's look at the New York Times.
Still 100,000 votes.
Right. Let's look at the New York Times and see what they think right now. Is Trump has an 89% chance of victory. Okay. Well, whether you like it or not, I think it's better for the country if this is done tonight. If this is over with and we have a decisive decision, so there's no worried about shenanigans and nobody can claim this election was rigged. We've had too many parties on both sides. The last two elections saying, it was rigged, it was stolen, Hillary did it, Trump did it. Let's be done with that. Let's get back to having faith in our elections.
And Trump's up 100,000 votes in Michigan.
Yeah, but I have a feeling they haven't counted all of Wayne County, and that's why it looks red right now. I have a feeling the only part of Wayne County that they actually counted is the suburbs that might be more likely to go red because they're not as busy, like the 600,000 people in Detroit. But we'll see. You can look at that. Some of them have a map and they'll show like this how many, like, so there's still a lot of votes in Detroit out. So like in Ann Arbor, look at the size of the blue circle. That means that's how many votes are out.
That's not that much compared to all the red.
You're right. So it'll be very interesting. But
I think
let's
we're not
hope
gonna.
it gets
It's
done
gonna
tonight.
be. It's gonna be a while. There's one. There's one thing I wanted to follow up on. One thing I wanted to talk.
Sure.
And this is more relevant to tonight's event. One thing I wanted to talk about was like comparing the two sides, who wins, who loses, what happens to the other side. You fleshed out the Democratic Party pretty well, and I've done research on this before. You know, I have, George.
Yep.
In the
We
thing
talked
you
about
and I
it.
are
Yep.
working on. Yeah, right. So I'll receive, kind of like, what do you think? Do you foresee a schism in the Democratic Party, a la MAGA? And like, if they lose, and you talked about that. So let's do the flip side of that. My
that's a good
best
idea.
friend. My best friend calls himself Blue MAGA, which is not a term I had heard before. It's more, like a fanatic Democrat or whatever, which I believe is a reaction to the other side. I believe it's ridiculous. But it is difficult to talk to him about the election or anything else. It really is. Like,
Sure.
Biden was just fine until he just had a bad debate. No, he wasn't.
He's a blue no matter who. Right. He's a blue no matter who guy.
Yeah. Right. So he firmly believes that if Trump loses, MAGA will dissipate. What do you guys think about that?
I don't think that's the case. I think that the Republican Party is changed and it's not going back in the foreseeable future. It's no longer conservative. Okay, Trump's not a conservative. He's just not. Conservative principles under Ronald Reagan had nothing to do with Trump. Trump is closer to Bill Clinton than Ronald Reagan. And I don't think it's that close.
Well, that's because
he's closer to Bill Clinton than Kamala is.
But that's because the spectrum has shifted so much.
Well, but he's not a conservative. What are conservative values? Less government.
Well, whoa, wait a minute. You can't say that because if Elon's going to come
maybe he will be next term, but he wasn't that last term. So you're right. You're right. That's a good point.
Because what if he goes in and says, that's it. 80% of the government's gone tomorrow.
You're right. Then I will stand corrected. He will be the most conservative, and that would be awesome. But socially, he's not that conservative. No, and that's a good thing because America's not that conservative socially.
So the way in which I view this is that people are looking for a rhetoric or a narrative that will allow them an easier path to power, and the Republicans have found that with the MAGA party
Very
line.
simple,
okay,
very
so I don't think that would go. I don't think it would go away right away if Trump loses.
No, 100%.
To your point.
You're right.
Conversely, George, to your point about the Democrats and identity politics, I think that's their version of kind of MAGA. You know what I mean? So, like, that is their easy path to power. That is their narrative that they can provide to get.
That's what they've been
votes.
using.
And I also don't think that would dissipate quite as easily, which is what you're talking about.
I hope it would, but yeah, you're right, Matt. That's a good point.
But listen, I think Scott made that point actually.
I don't think MAGA is bad. Okay, make America great again. How the hell is that a bad slogan? Okay,
I mean, you can take it from the top and work down from there.
If you're anticipating what they mean by "Make America Great" is the segregation,
I think it means something. I think it's just ambiguous enough to mean something different to a lot of different people, and some
but
of
I
it is
think
bad.
for most
you know
people,
what I mean?
they think of it as the '80s.
No.
Yeah, dude.
Well, I think of the 50s or the 60s.
But that is not.
I don't think of the 80s. I think of the 90s, maybe. But probably the 90s as well.
80s and 90s. That's what they mean.
I wouldn't say 80s.
When America won the fucking Cold War, they think of Rocky IV. Yeah. That's Make America Great. That's the peak. All right? That was the best thing in America ever. Was Rocky IV.
Nakatomi Plaza.
No, Rocky IV. He changes a whole stadium in Russia into being pro-America. If I could change, and you could change, then we all could change. Yeah. Like, that won the Cold War. Like Rocky IV. That's it. That's what "Make America Great Again" means. Like, let's get back to that instead of identity politics.
I don't disagree
But
with George on that.
But the point is, MAGA's not going anywhere because you have guys like Vance, DeSantis, and Vivek Ramaswamy. Those guys are competent as hell. And Tulsi Gabbard. Those people are competent, they're eloquent, and they will take what Trump's doing and run with it in a much better way than he does. Because
I think you're right.
Trump has all that baggage. Trump has so much baggage. He was so famous for so long before he ever even ran for president that he had all these skeletons in every closet. He was in the public eye forever. You take that and you give it to a 39-year-old guy like Vivek or a 40-year-old guy like Vance, and what you get is you get competent leadership without the drama. I mean, I don't think MAGA is going anywhere. I think the Republican Party is going to be a populist party. It just is. The Democrats are now the party of the elite, and the Republicans are the party of the common man. And it's just not everybody knows that yet. That's why you still have union people that are voting Democrat.
Well, and that's what
changing.
That's what I think's funny about, some of the ads, like how many billionaires are voting for Donald Trump or supporting Donald Trump.
None of the tech ones.
But yeah, literally none of them.
Well, at least I think maybe now some of them will be.
Well, sure.
I think some of them will be now. I do think that's like, I think maybe there's a chance Zuckerberg. Do you know who I really think voted for fucking Trump?
You're going to say Mark Zuckerberg?
Biden.
Okay.
Did you see Joe Biden today?
Did you see?
Did you see Joe Biden today? Matt, she wore a bright red suit to go vote. A bright red suit.
Look, the guy got fucked out of his own
party.
His own job by his own party. He's like, screw.
Oh, they took him out back.
Nothing left
they
to
took
lose.
him out back and shot him.
Oh yeah. But I think his wife
left to lose.
Well, I think his wife was the one that might have been helping to run the country, and so she's really pissed because she won another 4 years.
So funny, man.
She wore a bright red suit, Matt. Look it up. She wore a bright red suit to go vote. That's not an accident, man.
I'm not
That's
sure
not like
he said,
oops.
I'm not sure he said they are garbage. He might have been referring to their garbage as a possessive, but I still think he's kind of over the board now, where he's just like,
you watched that video. He was definitely. But I
didn't
think
actually
he did that to fuck Tulsi.
I didn't actually see the video.
I think if he's smart enough, it was on purpose. You watched the video. He said they're garbage, not their
I love
garbage.
That. I
but
love
the point is,
that idea. He's
what
like, oh, really, guys?
Matt, think about when he did that. He gave the Zoom, and this went viral in the middle of a big speech she did in the White House lawn.
He stole her thunder. Yeah.
Oh, and he does that all the time. He steps on her conferences.
I love it. The old guy's got some fire left in him.
Well, I don't even know if it's him. I think the people that are running that run him are pissed that they didn't get another 4 years to be in charge. Okay?
Wow.
So they are doing everything they can to undermine Kamala. And I think it's also that people don't like her. They just don't like her. It seems like her staff and all that, they don't like her.
Dude,
she had a lot of turnover in her staff.
Any reasonable person who looks Kamala Harris in the eyes for more than 3 seconds will recognize that she is clearly a psychopath.
I think she's over her head. I mean, psychopath maybe. I think she's failing upward, right? She's the exact definition of somebody who fails upward, right? She's as out of her depth as if it was me. If I was in there trying to give these speeches and run for president, I would be so clearly out of my depth that it would be fucked. And that's what's happening.
I think she's qualified to be president in that, like, hey, let's give anybody a shot. You know what I mean? But as far as
exactly,
like, literally,
exactly,
yeah. But like, let's look at if she wins. Let's look at how America elected its first woman president. Rich, old, white man, career politician, had to be forced out of his job by his own party for being senile, and then not receive the nomination by way of being voted, but being anointed without any input from the American people.
Vice president in the first place?
Because she was a DEI pick.
I was going to have a black
as stated
female
openly by him, right? Not because of
he said it.
And then,
he said it.
And then coast through this election because she's not the other guy and become the president.
Yep.
That's default election. That is not merit-based. None of that is.
No, of course. And that's why she wasn't good at. Okay. That's the problem with all of these DEI things where they assume that merit's not important. But really, it couldn't be more important. Like, merit is what matters. It matters more than diversity. It matters more than inclusion. All you want is people to not give the chance to. You can't hold people back because of their race or their sex. But you can't give them the job because of those things. You need the best possible candidates. We're not fucking around here. This is real world shit. This is the person who's going to have to talk to Putin, who's going to have to sit down with Xi Jinping, who's going to have to tell Iran to stop, who's going to have to talk to all these competent people that got to the top by clawing their way to the top. And she's not going to be able to do that. She's just not. That's not how it works. And so it would really set us back in international relations. There's no way in hell that Xi Jinping is going to be afraid to go into Taiwan if she's president. No. Here's an interesting thought, though. If you're Kamala, do you 25th Amendment Biden if you lose this election? So you're still the first female president?
Oh, you
25th Amendment. He's not competent. He's not fit. You just got to get Nancy Pelosi on board. Like, it's not that difficult, right? She can be bought.
So you say just for a little while, just for a few months, she becomes.
She'd have 3 months to be the first woman president.
I don't.
That'd be fucking hilarious.
It wouldn't.
I would love that. I think
she could do a lot of damage in 3 months.
Not that much. It's a lame duck shit.
Well, let's just be very clear that nobody is actually running this country right now.
Right.
No one person.
Wait
a minute.
The same people. Wait a minute.
Yeah, nobody we know.
Wait a minute.
You're right. Nobody we know.
The same people are running the country now that have ran it the last 4 years.
Right.
And it wasn't Kamala Harris, and it wasn't Joe Biden. It was by committee of the DNC.
Yep. And let's drill down on that a little bit. If I was a journalist, if I was Joe Rogan, I'd say, like, at what point did you realize that Joe Biden was not competent to run the country? And what exactly did you do about it?
Brett Baer asked her that.
Yeah, but they'll never admit
she
that.
Said,
did he?
She said he's as sharp as he ever was.
Okay, that's why. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why
she's
he's
not
forced out of his job.
Right. Like, he just had
that's
a
right,
bad
I saw that. Yeah. Such bullshit.
Yeah. What the fuck are you talking about?
What's breaking news, George?
Oregon got called for Kamala Harris.
No.
Oh, that's a big surprise.
Yeah, I just like to do the fake breaking news.
Damn goddamn hippies. That's where Dan Carlin lives, but he votes Libertarian. So.
Who knows?
Well, right now,
who knows now?
Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Arizona are all leaning right, but not declared yet. Which is funny because you'd think Georgia would be. We got Donald Trump still leading by 140,000 votes in Georgia.
They're probably just waiting if it gets over the threshold of the like the pre-voting and stuff if they haven't counted that stuff.
He's up by 200,000 votes in Pennsylvania. In Michigan, he's up by 130,000 votes.
What's going on in the Senate? Let's wrap up with an update here.
Yeah. He's up in Wisconsin by 75,000.
Hey, Matt, while we're looking this up, can you talk about the Mithridates thing?
Yeah, I'm stoked for that. To our loyal fans here and in the Discord, it was suggested about a month ago some time ago by George that we talk about Mithridates of Pontus, which is a very interesting and passionate topic for me, and I was very stoked to do it. So I set a tentative date, which is coming up on Thursday, the 14th, I believe it is, and the event is sent in our Discord. So we'll be talking Mithridates, and I'm super stoked about that. It's a very interesting fellow. It's going to be a live stage event, so you can tune in with your thoughts. You don't need to read the book, The Poison King, but if you want to, it's a great book. There's plenty of ancient Rome stuff in there, plenty of ancient history, whatever you want to talk about if you want to pipe in.
Stuff.
But it's going to be fun no matter what, and I'm very stoked about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I look forward to it.
I am too. Okay. All right, everybody.
People getting poisoned.
Just remember, whoever wins this election, America is still badass, and we'll survive. Okay.
Yep.
Don't not talk to your relatives because they voted in a different direction than you. Don't do
Straight
that.
up. Or your friends.
No,
or,
because it's stupid.
Don't write off people. And hopefully some of the people who went a little nuts either way after this election can maybe calm down and come back to Jesus a little bit on this. Just come back to the middle. Let's get everybody in the middle and let's calm down. It's time. It's time for America to calm down and maybe get healthier. I would really love that. I'm trying. We need to all do that. Matt, thank you for joining us. Dude, this was fun.
My pleasure.
This was exactly what I was hoping for this conversation.
Me too.
So I really appreciate it. And as always, your input is super valuable. Check out the Discord channel, Hardcore Histories Discussions Discord channel. And there's the Mithridates next Thursday, November 14th. Right, Matt?
Yep.
Okay. So we're on for that. I don't think we're going to record it for a podcast. We're just having a live discussion for fun. So join in. You don't have to worry about recording and being in the podcast. We're just going to talk. And also, there was a really thoughtful comment on the Discord channel, the Talking Hardcore chat in the Discord. There was a vote for the sexiest podcast hosts, and people had raised some thoughts about how we didn't win, and that was a travesty. We didn't even get votes.
What? Why could we? Who were we up against? What was our competition?
The Kelsey brothers.
Who the hell's that? Oh, no. Wait, whoa. They're professional football players. That doesn't count.
Well, they won.
What do they know about history?
No, not history. It said best looking podcasts. Hosts. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
a very nice person on there.
One is dating Taylor Swift.
Did we get screwed out of that? And I said, no, I don't even think we got a vote.
No. One is dating Taylor
By the way, we got some constructive criticism. People were happy with the length of the podcast last time, which was an hour and 40 minutes. And they were very happy about that, actually, which I was glad to hear.
An hour and 29.
You got to remember, we got a lot of fans of Dan Carlin, so clearly people here don't mind a ramble. So, all right, Matt, thanks again. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you on the 14th on the Hardcore History Discussions Discord.
See you, bud.
Peace out.